Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Enlightenment Hour. It's just me today, no guest. You've just got me for about 25 minutes rambling, and I'm going to be rambling about, well, at the end I'm going to tell you a bit about what the sort of future of this podcast is going to be, because as with anything usually like this, things change. You want to do different things with it than you originally set out to, and that has happened with the Enlightenment Hour. It's not going anywhere. HorrorHouse is not going anywhere either. Everything is staying exactly the same. Well, not exactly the same, but everything is staying the same. But the Enlightenment Hour is changing slightly. I don't know why I keep saying everything's staying the same and then saying things are changing, because that doesn't make any sense. Things are changing with the Enlightenment Hour, but nothing's going away, I should say. Nothing is going away, which is a great thing, but primarily, moving on from that for a minute, primarily today I'm going to be talking about the Netflix original series Master of None, which had its second season released on this past Friday, May the 12th, that was, and it is the brainchild of Aziz Ansari, who everybody loves as Tom Haverford from Parks and Rec. He is an incredibly likeable guy, both on and off screen, and yes, I wanted to talk about Master of None today, not necessarily in a review style format or just going over season 2, but as the series as a whole. I think season 1 came out in about 2015. I think it took a year off. I think it did. Don't necessarily quote me on that. But yeah, I remember very much liking season 1 of Master of None when I first saw it. This was before I'd ever even watched Parks and Rec, so I had no real idea who Aziz Ansari was. Master of None season 1 was my first introduction to him, and he is just such a charming, joy-filled human being. It's wonderful to watch. And of course, the show takes place in New York. Ansari plays this guy called Dev, who's like an actor and a sort of, he's like a commercial actor, struggling actor. The typical struggling actor in New York kind of story, which is exactly what I thought it was going to be at start. But it is so much more, and even in season 1. Master of None is so much more than your typical struggling actor in New York kind of show. It's a show about Dev, the main character, played, of course, again by Aziz. It is a show about him, his life, his friends, his relationships, and being that this is a show that is created, written, and occasionally directed and starring Aziz Ansari. Although Alan Yang also sort of he's the sort of co-creator slash co-writer, I think. But yeah, it's all Aziz, and you get that throughout it. You can tell that he knows exactly what he's doing throughout this entire show. And, season 1 sort of played out in the more sort of, more like relationship. It's a relationshipy show, if that's even a word. Yeah, so I think the first season starts off, he's with this girl called Rachel, played by Noel Wells. I think that's her name. I'm pretty sure that's her name. And that sort of it goes from there. I'm not going to go into any sort of, not that a show like this, a show that is primarily sort of a comedy with, dramatic elements needs necessarily to be spoiled. I don't think. It's not a show that has major twists that can be spoiled. But I'm not going to tell you a great deal about the plot anyway, because you just watch this stuff for yourself. But I honestly do think it is one of Netflix's finest shows, and it is what Netflix is all about, in the fact that it gets these creative people and lets them basically do whatever they want, which is the great thing about streaming services, really. You get so much more original, creative content on streaming services like Netflix, because there's no big, big Disney overlord just looming down on them going, do this, it has to be this way, it has to be this way. And the major franchises, your Marvel, your DC, your Star Wars, even, all sort of, if they suffer from people not being allowed to fulfill their creative potential, which is not something, that's something that Netflix and those like it allow, and is so prevalent in Master of None, and it was in that first season. But the reason I really wanted to talk about this today was because I binged the second season over this past weekend, and it is phenomenal. It is such a step up from the already excellent season 1. I remember when I first watched season 1, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it was my first introduction to Aziz Ansari, and almost, I'd say, probably a big factor in me wanting to go and then watch Parks and Rec afterwards, because I'd known Parks and Rec was a big thing anyway. Of course it is. It's a fantastic show itself. It's a hilarious show, and Aziz is wonderful in it. Playing, I mean, it's not the same character, but an Aziz Ansari character is just the sort of guy that can jump into a scene, go, hey, and then say something funny and then jump out. He's a very energetic actor, and that is what I really do like about him. He's always got a massive smile on his face, which is just, I don't know, the guy, I smile when I see Aziz Ansari, because the guy makes me smile. That's what I like. That's what I also like about Master of None, because you are fully you're fully invested in Dev's sort of life and his work and his relationships. Like I said, in season 1 focuses mainly on that, but this, like I said, I wanted to record this little one today, primarily because I binged season 2 over the weekend, and season 2 is such a step up from season 1. It starts off with Dev in Italy, because he moved to Italy at the end of the first season, and those first 2 episodes are set and filmed in Italy. I don't know if they were filmed in Italy. It really looks like they were filmed in Italy if they weren't. Presumably they were. But yeah, they're just beautiful to look at, which is strange for like a primarily comedy show. Like I said, it has got its sort of dramatic elements, but it is primarily a funny show, and it really is. But it is beautiful to watch. I think Aziz himself directed, I know he directed the first episode, and the first episode is in black and white, and with it being set in Italy as well, it really feels like one of those sort of post World War II Italian films. You know, the neo-realist movement in Italy that came about after World War II, about sort of working class people's struggles and all sort of that. The film Bicycle Thieves is really the prime example of that, and of course, Master of None is nowhere near as dramatic as something like Bicycle Thieves, but it gave off that really beautiful sort of Italian look to it. Not that Bicycle Thieves is even necessarily beautiful to look at, because it's very sort of raw and real. Shot, of course, all on location in Rome, but yeah, it just reminded me of that sort of era of Italian film, or world cinema, really. It just reminded me of that sort of era of world cinema. And I had no idea Aziz Ansari was such a talented director, and that really just impressed me. And while in Italy, moving back onto what actually happens in this show, while in Italy, he is working with this girl in a pasta shop called Francesca, and that is sort of the major relationship of the second season, even though there are only 2 episodes, the first 2 episodes, that are actually set in Italy before he moves back to New York, and it sort of not necessarily starts to feel like the first season, because it is still a great sort of step up, both in terms of depth, just technical quality, I think, and writing. I think they really honed in on what they wanted to do. Aziz and Alan Yang really took the time to focus on what they wanted to do with season 2, and it really pays off. But yeah, this girl Francesca brings, takes a couple of trips to New York, and they're good friends and everything goes well. And that's the major relationship story of that season. He also has his work life to deal with. He becomes the host of a new show, and he has all that. But the plot isn't necessarily, well, the sort of, it's obviously relevant, but I don't think it's necessarily, the thing that I look at Master of None and say, wow, this has got a fantastic plot, because, on the face of it, it's a really simple plot, but it's so perfectly done. Or at least that's how I feel. It is so well done, and well written, and the sort of the messages within it. It's all out love, this show, and the messages within it are I want to say it's episode 8, but there's a Thanksgiving episode where Aziz, or I'm gonna keep calling him Aziz because the character's name's Dev, but it's just easier. Well, it's not necessarily easier, it's just, we look at Aziz Ansari and we think, yes, that's Aziz Ansari, it's not some guy called Dev. But yeah, he and his friend Denise, who is a gay black woman, who, those two characters have sort of grown up together, childhood friends, teenage friends, now adult friends, and they've always spent Thanksgiving together, because Dev is Indian, so they don't have Thanksgiving. And actually, just to go off on a bit of a tangent here, Aziz Ansari's parents play Dev's parents in the show, and I just think that's incredible, because they are they clearly have zero acting history, but you really get it's so joyous to watch. You get such a realistic relationship between Dev and his parents, and I just think that's a fantastic casting decision, to cast your own parents as your character's parents. And obviously, because it is the brainchild of Aziz, he can do that, and that's what I love about shows like this. Getting back on point, what was I talking about? The Thanksgiving episode. It's a really relevant episode about acceptance. Because his friend Denise, over sort of the course of years worth of Thanksgivings, comes out to her family and brings her girlfriends over for various Thanksgivings, and it's just a really sweet episode about, like I said, the show is just all out love, and it's just that especially was just felt like a really deep, really sweet, just perfectly made episode of television. A really relevant episode as well in this whole society of thinking, people preaching equality and then not actually following through with it, which is just wrong, because that's arguably preaching equality and not believing it is arguably worse than not believing in equality in the first place. Don't lie, basically. But who am I to tell anybody what to think or what to believe? That is not why I'm here. But yes, this Thanksgiving episode, it is called Thanksgiving. It is an incredible episode of television in general. It also that one also co-stars Angela Bassett, who is a wonderful actress. So she was nice to see, just in that, for that one episode as Denise's mother. That was really cool. But yes, it was sort of like almost like a standalone episode. Didn't follow the plot of that series, that season in particular. But I think that does that episode its benefit. That is, that particular episode of television can be watched aside from all the other ones. I think it's episode 8 in season 2. So, all I'm basically telling you in this short Enlightenment Hour today is to go and watch Master of None if you've got Netflix, and if you haven't already, because I believe it is one of the most, it's one of the most heartwarming, sweet, creative, just, intelligent but not patronising, and it has messages, but it doesn't beat you over the head with them, and it is just such a well-made series. And season 2 does have this step up from season 1, and season 1 is great in itself. Aziz Ansari is such a likeable human being, and all of that is passed on in this show. It really is an absolute joy, and I've just had it in my head, since I finished watching it. I think I only finished watching it yesterday, as of this recording. But yeah, it is just such a good show. I'm not trying to necessarily review, quote unquote, Master of None as a series. That's not what I wanted to do with this episode. I just wanted to show my love for the series and to highly recommend it to anyone listening that has not watched it. It's 10 episodes a season. There's two seasons. It's 10 episodes a season, Most of them are 30 minutes long. It's a really easy binge. It's a really wonderful binge. You will, I'm sure, love every minute of it. I've not even mentioned Dev's best friend Arnold, played by Eric Wareheim, I think his name is, who is hilarious. And, you know, like I said, this Master of None has all these, it has these messages in it. It has the sort of more, sometimes heartbreaking, sometimes heartwarming, dramatic stuff with relationships and that sort of stuff, but it is primarily a comedy. It does make you laugh every single episode quite a lot, which is, and that's easy for someone like Aziz to do. And when you pair him with a 6'7" Eric Wareheim, who's just goofy and lovable himself, it just works as a perfect, old school comedy duo of someone who's very, very tall, and then his partner who's very, very small. I mean, I don't know how tall Aziz Ansari is, but he's got to be a foot smaller than Eric Wareheim, and it's just, you get a little and large guy, and you've got comedy there. You don't even need to do anything. That's already funny. But, yeah, it is a delight to watch. But, yes, so that is my not necessarily review / review, not at all review. I don't want to use the word review. Stop using the word review. Now I can't stop saying it. That's nice. That is my thoughts. Let's use the word thoughts on Master of None, and my high recommendation for everyone to go and watch it. So now I just want to talk for a couple of minutes right at the end just about what is going on with the Enlightenment Hour, because I don't know if you've noticed, but this is neither a top 5 list like episode 2 was, nor is it a sort of lesson on things I don't know about like episode 1 was. And that is, that is what the Enlightenment Hour was originally going to be. It was going to be a show where guests would come on and teach me about things I might not know about. I tried to do something different with episode 2 and doing that top 5 Looney Tunes characters with Billy Polahan. If you haven't checked that out, go and do so. Which was a lot of fun. And that style of... In fact, none of the sort of styles of videos are going anywhere. Videos. They're not videos, obviously, otherwise you'd be able to see me. None of the style of episodes are going anywhere, none are leaving, but what I'm doing with the Enlightenment Hour is I am focusing sort of... It is going to become just a place where I just randomly do things, if that doesn't make any sense, so I'll explain. If I want to, offer my thoughts on something like this, something that it can be Master of None, I can offer my thoughts on any sort of other thing that's happening, for example, I could offer my thoughts on Wonder Woman when that comes out, and I'll do it on an episode of Enlightenment Hour. I could offer my thoughts on the price of I don't know, not Vincent Price, because that's been done enough, but I think you understand what I mean. Hopefully you understand what I mean. This is anything. This is a place for me to give my thoughts on things, as well as that, the sort of style of video of the top 5 video that was episode 2, and the sort of more lesson-based, teach me about things style of episode 1, they're not going anywhere either. Those styles of videos will be coming back onto the Enlightenment Hour feed, and that is just, I'm making this place my home of my audio home of thoughts and production. Let's call it that. That's not a great title, but my audio home of thoughts and production. You can tell this is a ramble video. You can really tell this is a complete unedited ramble of an episode. Did I say video again then? I need to stop saying video. Sigh. Anyway, hopefully you completely understand that Enlightenment Hour is a place for all things me, which, you know, you can either... I don't think anybody actually would like that, but that's what I'm doing anyway. HorrorHouse is staying the exact same. HorrorHouse is going nowhere. Speaking of HorrorHouse, this coming weekend is the 1 year anniversary of HorrorHouse. Episode 1 was published on May the 21st last year. So this weekend is going to be 1 year of me speaking into this microphone about horror. And of course now starting to do the Enlightenment Hour. And I am looking to do something very special for the 1 year anniversary. So if anybody does have any suggestions, of course I'm thinking something along the lines of, you know, a Q&A episode or something like that. But if anyone does have any suggestions or questions for this Q&A, I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. Please head on over to @HorrorHousePod on Twitter and #HorrorHousePod to let me know the questions or the suggestions or anything like that. And of course, if you did enjoy this episode of Enlightenment Hour, this more rambly based episode that will be going nowhere, I can see myself doing a lot of these ramble based things because, like I said, this is going to become a place where I just give my thoughts on things. You know, whatever's in my head at that particular time. It can be a random time, who knows, I might come up with some sort of schedule, but, you know, maybe, we're going to stick to the every other week kind of deal with Enlightenment Hour, but because this is a shorter episode, easier to record, easy to edit if I even need to edit it, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. Maybe we'll move to sort of 1 Enlightenment Hour a week, but as it is now, there's no real schedule for these. But you know, it's whenever I want to feel like I want to talk about something, and whether that is a guest coming on, giving, you know, telling me about something they love that I don't know about, whether that is me and a guest doing a top 5 list of a completely bizarre, wonderful topic like Looney Tunes was. You know, I don't know, but they will be coming back, as will episodes like this. But yes, if you did enjoy this episode, please subscribe to this iTunes feed, rate and review as well. That would really help. Or if you are watching on YouTube, sub to this channel and leave a like. You know, share this episode around with other people who might be interested in this sort of stuff. I don't know, no one's probably interested, but who knows, they might be. So yes, please do that, and as always, you can check me out on Twitter at @PurpleDon, #PDEHour on Twitter also, if you want to talk about various stuff to do with Enlightenment Hour on there. And yes, that is going to do it for this episode of the Enlightenment Hour. Until next time, guys, goodbye.